from PRX.
Friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends of Mandalore. Like, if there was, like, I don't know actually, I don't know the history of Mandalore. Friends of Mandaboria, because that first you say, well, fans of a man that bores. If that's the case, you're in the right place. If you're a friend of Mandalore, I still have to figure out what that means, because I say, well, okay, so it sounds like there's just like every other, it's a mixed history. So when I say friends of Mandalore, I probably should just say, if you're a fan of Mandaboria, to sleep, it's time for Sleep With Me, the podcast to put you to sleep.
This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was getting frustrated by your forms. Now, Taxes is uploading your forms with a snap, and a TurboTax expert will do your taxes for you. One who's backed by the latest tech, which cross-checks millions of data points for absolute accuracy, all of which makes it easy for you to get the most money back guaranteed. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
Hey everybody, it's Drew Scooter here talking about Sleep With Me Plus, our membership program. Whether you're looking to listen to more episodes, you listen all night long, you're looking for an ad-free experience, more bonus shows. If you're listening to me right now and you're hearing me, you know Sleep With Me isn't just a podcast. It's a way to bring comfort, ease sleeplessness, and help you through the deep, dark night. And if it has been there for you in 2024 or beyond, 2023, all the way back to when we started the show, I'd like to ask you to support the show back for the comfort, the sleep, and the companionship it brought you last year, and it's going to continue to bring you in 2025. You know, by joining Sleep With Me Plus, you can enjoy the show your way. You know, there's story-only episodes. Some tiers have tons of all-intro episodes. It's perfect for all-night listening, ad-free listening deep, deep, deep into the archives. But more importantly, it funds the ongoing production of the podcast. So your subscription allows me to keep making the show that benefits you and thousands of other people every night. Your support, like you that is hearing me and listening to me and chooses to support the show, is what makes that possible. So did Sleep With Me help you in 2024? Are you listening to me? Are you hearing me? I don't know which one comes first. And do you want to be a part of this special thing that the goal of the show is to make your life better? And by doing that, you help out all these other people too. Do you want to do that and enjoy the benefits of that in 2025? Then sign up right now. Don't wait. I keep saying that because I've learned from the people that have signed up. Sign up right now, and then you can do the bonus content tomorrow, and you'll have this peace of mind that you're a part of something very, very special. So do that right now at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. Make the show a part of your future, a part of your present. And thank you so much for helping keep the show going. Oh, Mystery Bard, a lot of people help out on this show. Who are they?
Posty poster son sounds like an earful. Wrote the theme song. Edits episodes. Carl W. the legend. Also edits episodes. Ashley, Kenny, Scotty, Jennifer. Runner. Eric and the team at Astound or on the website. I am the Mystery Bard. I do the lullabies, yeah. I do commissions at JonathanMann.net. I'll write a song for you. Any reason at all. You can tell me the story and I'll make it personal. You see the kindness shine straight on through when the listeners form their own Facebook group. Keith, Stacy, Sarah, Julie, and Jennifer. These are your moderators. Get support your scooter on Patreon. Buy the merch and support the sponsors. You can find anything you want at sleepwithmepodcast.com. And we're so proud that we could dance. Rusty Biscuit, Lois, Anna like banana. Leah does the transcripts.
Thanks, Mystery Bard. Don't forget, if you heard everything I was saying about Sleep With Me Plus, but you're not in a position to support the show, you can get access to Sleep With Me Plus for free by signing up for our referral program. If you want ad-free episodes or bonus episodes or whatever it is, just sign up at sleepwithmepodcast.com/refer, REFER. Thanks. What do you say we slow it down and get on with the show? Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake. And that could be thoughts, things on your mind that you're thinking about, rumination. Oh, look out. When was the last time I talked about rumination? Regular listeners say 2 weeks ago, Scoots. Because I feel like I need to ruminate about rumination. I feel like it's been too long. I feel like I've had, not a repose or a respite, but something like a break, even though I think those both mean a break. So whatever your thoughts, things on your mind that you're thinking about, feelings, it could be emotions coming up about those thoughts or about something else, or they could just be there. You're experiencing them, or maybe you're not. Sometimes I experience my feelings, and sometimes, I'm trying to not experience them. So it could be feelings, physical sensations, could be change in your routine or your partner's routine or your family's routine. Could be something else. Whatever it is, especially third, fourth, fifth shift people. So many industrialists have sent me messages recently saying, quit talking about the fifth and sixth shifts and the fourth dimensional shifts. We were trying to keep a lid on that, Scooter. Also, they don't exist. There's only three, because now the great, and it was like the TP barons. I don't think I've ever heard from the TP barons till 2020 and now 2021. But they're out there. Baron von Scott, and then that one, the Baron von Scott's the one that reached out to me and said, now we have employees requesting to work on the fifth and sixth shifts, and we don't know what to do. And I said, well, here's the thing. I said, well, I don't do that for free. I can't consult with, and they say, you realize this is like a monopoly. That's what happened in 2020. And I say, okay. Well, I said, oh, I'm sorry. Well, this is just an imaginary conversation. I'm supposed to be starting a sleep podcast. So whatever is keeping you awake, I'd like to take your mind off that. What I'm going to do is I got a safe place, Charmony Soft, or whatever. It's a pillowy soft. If you want a firmer place or something, I got plenty of room. Also, despite what that, our facilities are stocked, by the way, in our safe place. So whatever that Baron said is just not accurate. Whatever it is, whatever's keeping you awake, I got a safe place here for you to rest, for you to catch a breath, and to start to wind down. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones. That's right, my dulcets are creaky. That's a dulcet. I have no idea. That's a D-U-L-C-E-T, maybe. Creaky like a door. Dulcet, like a shiny bauble, like the audio version of that. Creaky dulcet tones, pointless meanders. That's where I go. You've seen one of those. And superfluous tangents. That's when I'll talk. Somehow I got to talk about rumination. You think Rumi ruminated at all? I mean, would Rumi be I'm sure that's how Rumi found Rumi's way to a more mindful place, is probably from like a few decades of rumination. That's just a guess, but because you say, wait a second, like this rumination, I'm not cut out for ruminating. But I got to get to these new listeners, so I'm going to send my voice across the deep dark night. I'm here to keep you company while you fall asleep. There's a lot of counterintuitive things about the show, so I just want to tell you about them right up front. The first thing is, this is a podcast you don't really listen to. You just barely kind of listen, almost in a, not a totally passive way, like humor me. like almost like not like you would humor a friend. I guess you like, because I got to earn your trust, right? We can't just become friends, obviously. That, you know, you might be skeptical or doubtful. So just humor me like you would someone, like, let's say you were like stopping to, you just say, like that kind of stuff. You say, like, that's the kind of like you just barely listen. Just like when you barely listen to people during the day, like, let's say you're in line at like a quick store, a quick shop, and you're just getting a couple things and someone's talking to you about something and you like, you might have other stuff on your mind, or they might be talking daytime nonsense. They might be ruminating. They might be expounding on something they've been ruminating about. And you might just try to be polite and say, okay. Oh boy. Yep. No, well, okay. I got my Twinkies. I got to go now. Thanks. So for Sleep With Me, it's just kind of like that, where you're like, okay. Rumination, huh? Okay. Just Baron von Scott. So that's the first thing. Barely, you just kind of like, this podcast is almost like sand running through your hands. The other thing is this podcast really doesn't put you to sleep. There's other podcasts out there that are kind of designed to put you to sleep. This podcast is here to keep you company while you fall asleep. And the difference is that you don't have to listen to me, but that that's why the shows are about an hour. And also that I'm here twice a week. It's so... What I literally forgot what I was talking about. I don't have to put, oh, yeah, this doesn't really put you to sleep. I just keep you company. I got mixed up in the middle of a sentence. So that's why I'm going to be here to the very end. So if you can't sleep, I'll be here to keep you company. But most of the time, you just kind of fall asleep at your leisure. You just barely listen to me. And then the next thing you know, it's the next day or tomorrow, ideally. So no need to listen. No pressure to fall asleep. The other things to know if you're new is the structure of the show. The show starts off with a greeting, friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends of Mandalorians. So that's a greeting, so everybody knows they're welcome, so you feel seen and invited in. Then there's support for the audience. Then there's support for the show, like a business. Then there's an intro. And the intro runs somewhere around, I don't know, like minute 5 or 6 or 7 to minute 20 something. Somewhere around 12 to 18 to 20 minutes of introduction. And the intro serves a purpose of keeping you company while you wind down. It can really throw people off because normally an introduction is just, a minute or two. You say, well, here's what the show is. This is what the show's going to be about. And this is what we're going to do. And what I found with Sleep With Me is that's just a little too abrupt for a sleep podcast. Because then suddenly, at least for me and for a lot of listeners in the early days, they said, well, then I'm supposed to fall asleep. Then you started the story that I'm supposed to fall asleep to. That's a little bit too much pressure. So the intro grew over the years to what it is today, and that's so that you can ease into bedtime. It's kind of like bonus meanders. That's one day if we have a plush character related to the show, somebody remind me to just come up with a character named Bonus Meanders, or maybe it'd be like T Bonus Meanders, because maybe Bonus Meanders would be in a suit. T Bonus Meanders, would be in Baron von Scott. I think maybe one day they'll be in a story together. But I forget what else. Now I got T-Bonus Meanders running around in my brain. But so the intro serves a purpose of easing you into bedtime or being part of your bedtime routine. Because Sleep With Me for some people it does work very fast. But for most of us, and the way the show is designed, it's great if it works fast for you, is that it's meant to ease you into bedtime. So as part of your wind down, whether you're in bed or you're getting ready for bed, to give you some distance from the day. So that's why it goes on and on and on. You can skip it, though most people find after 2 or 3 tries that they really enjoy the intro. But yeah, 2 or 3% of listeners and a few thousand patrons enjoy just listening to the stories. Or like, so if you're listening on this feed, you just start the show around 20 minutes or something. And that won't be exact, but that'll get you close. So that's the intro. Then there's business between the intro and the story. That's kind of the main place where podcasts have their business. That's called the mid-roll, even though it's called the mid-roll, even though it's not in the middle of the show. It's like the first quarter. It's after the first quarter of the show. So we get that done. Then we start the bedtime story. Tonight it'll be a recap of the Mandalorian from season 2. And, oh boy, will we be talking about Baby Oso and, some people may say this podcaster doesn't know his grief cargus. He doesn't know the difference between grief cargus and reef cargus. Also, it's not cargus. And I say, you're right. And it's not grief or reef. And I'd say, well, it's a family, okay? Just because you don't know about the greater cargus group, and I do. That's how I met T-Bone, whatever. What was that part of my brain? T-Bone meanders. But so you're right. I don't know my grief cargus from my reef cargus. Though I may write some fan fiction now. You say, yeah, I'm the boring cargus brother. Not even an accountant for my brothers. We were twins, not like those solo twins, though. I always spent most of my time solo at home. That's grief cargus, I think, or maybe reef cargus. But I know I never scuba dove, but I love reefs. And so, yeah, that's my hobby, is thinking about reefs. Oh, reefs. Did I say reefs? I meant wreaths. Anyway, so so that's what we'll talk about, the Mandalorian, in a very meandering and indirect way. And, I kind of get fixated and go off topic and stuff. So then there'll be thank yous at the end of the show. So that's the structure of the show. The reason I make the show is twofold. One, you deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a place you could rest and get a good night's sleep. You just deserve that. That's just a fact. And it's also a fact that if you get the sleep you need, your life's going to be better. And all of our lives are going to be better. That's like, it's just the fact of the matter. And that's important. It's important to me to be able to provide it if I can. Now, this podcast does not work for everybody, so hopefully it works for you. And then the other reason I make the show is because I've been there. Like, I just read a review from somebody that was a chronic insomniac that doesn't sleep to the show, and that's just there listening for some company in the deep, dark night. And that's why I make the podcast. I make it to put you to sleep, but to keep you company when you can't sleep. Because I know that lonely, desperate feeling that happens in the middle of the night. And if I can take your mind off of that and keep you company and just tell you a goofy story, or, be silly. And then either I keep you company, maybe I make you barely giggle, or you fall asleep. That's why I'm here. So, yeah, so those are those two things. I think that's it for the stuff of the show. I was just thinking of rumination. I mean, it's not a bad word to say, though it feels heavy in the mouth. Rumination. I mean, I think because it's got a heavy load to bear. And it's so close to ruination. I don't know if you just change a couple letters or what. Rumination is like, that one's hard for a dyslexic to spell. Ruin is R-U-I-N. Ramenation. Is there a ramen place called Ramenation? Because there should be. I would presume there is somewhere. It's almost a little bit hard to say. Ramenation. You'd have to think of some reason. You say, why is it called Ramenation? And you say, well, and you say, okay, first of all, which nation is it in? Typical U.S. I'd say, okay, well, we have a globe with at least every continent, we have different ramens. It's Ramenation, but that's international. That's not, okay. So you're right. We have to rethink this dining concept. Is it going to be fast casual? I don't know. I never know what that means. It will be like the place where you go up and you order from the place. Well, that might just work with your concept because you have the ramen already ready in the bowl. Okay, somebody patent this, please. I own this idea, just so you know. And then you have the broths and then the toppings. Ramenation. Ramenation, where ramen is possible for dinner, for fast casual, meal. Okay, so anyway, so I'm basically here to just keep you company if you're ruminating. If you're ruminating on ramenating or ruination or anything else, I'm here to keep you company and take your mind off of stuff because you're important and your sleep's important. I appreciate you coming by. Like I said, not everybody, this show just doesn't work for everybody, but usually when people come, they're skeptical or doubtful, which is totally normal. So all I can say is give it a few tries and see how it goes and see if it works for you. That's what most reviewers say. It takes 2 or 3 tries to get used to its creaky dulcet tones, its pointless meanders, the fact that you don't listen to him. He doesn't really put you to sleep. He just keeps you company. He does have to earn your trust in order to lose it. Also, the show structure. So yeah, but eventually I started falling asleep, no problem. So just give it a few tries, see how it goes. If not, there's a lot of, you can go to sleepwithmepodcast.com/no thank you and check out other sleep podcasts and stuff out there. But I really appreciate you coming by. I work really hard at Your Nice Drive, and I really want to help you fall asleep. And here's a couple of ways I'm able to do this for you free twice a week. Hey, buddy, it's Scoots here, and I want to talk to you about Sleep With Me Plus, which you can sign up for at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. If Sleep With Me has been your companion through sleepless nights in 2024, helping you drift off, easing your discomfort, or simply being there when you needed a friend in the deep, dark night, I'd ask you to take the next step with me right now and support the show on Sleep With Me Plus. It's the ultimate way to enjoy the podcast, whether you love listening all night long, re-listening to your favorite episodes, listening to just stories or intros or bonus shows. You're not just supporting the show, you're helping me continue creating the podcast that eases suffering for you and thousands of others in the deep, dark night. Your support ensures that I can keep showing up for you and everyone else who depends on the podcast to find rest and comfort. So if you're hearing me and you're listening to me, it's a pretty rare thing. So I have your attention. It's incredibly important because my job of putting you to sleep is incredibly important. And the goal of the podcast of easing suffering and being your friend in the deep, dark night is important to me. So if Sleep With Me was there for you this year, could you make it a part of your plans right now in this moment? If you're listening to me, you're hearing me, and you're saying, yeah, it was a big part of my 2024, and I think it's going to be a part of my 2025 and beyond. Could you go to sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus right now and sign up today? You'll get a thank you video from me. And you'll get the best way to listen to Sleep With Me because it's way more customizable than what we can do on this ad-supported show. But you'll be a part of making this show possible, of hitting our goal of putting you to sleep, of easing your discomfort in the deep, dark night. And by doing that and being a part of it, it helps thousands and thousands of other people. So thank you so much. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it the bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts, things you're thinking about on your mind, thoughts, feelings. So anything coming up for you emotionally or physically, physical sensations, changes in time or temperature or routine, anything going on inside, outside, or nearby, in your vicinity. Even, a lot of times it's outside of my vicinity that's keeping me up, but it could be something in your vicinity. Vicinity's a weird word. Has vicinity ever come up? Is that the correct word? Scoots, when you say it, it sounds like vicinity. And I say, well, that sounds good. That sounds like a tangent we could go on later if I remember. Vicinity, right? Are you in my vicinity? Vis vorum vis. Vis vos vis. I don't know. Is that vicinity is actually, I have no idea. It's not a noun. Is that an adverb or an adjective? I think adjectives end in ly, or adverbs do. One of them. Well, I bet I'm in the vicinity of a new listener, so I want to get to them. Hey, if you're new, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. So good to see you too. But for you new listeners, I did want to go over a few things before before you get too confused. Believe me, you're going to get confused. So a few things. First off, I just want to give you a warning and a heads up. This podcast not only does this podcast not work for everybody, even the people it works for. Did I forget part of the intro? Did I say I'm going to send my voice across? I already went off topic. I think I went off topic before I even got through the right part of the intro. Sorry about that, new listener. I'll be right back. What I'm here to do. Oh, I guess this is good. So the podcast does not work for everybody, but even the people it works for, because I went off topic about vicinity. So I'll get back to the intro. But yeah, not only does it not work for everybody, but for the people it works for, it takes 2 or 3 tries. So that's one thing to know. The other thing to know is that what I'm going to try to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake, like I said. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, pointless meanders, superfluous tangents. So basically, my voice isn't super soothing. It's more ignorable. They say, Scooch, you really, you're the one person who could mix up, if they had a resume, you could think you were putting ignoble down, but ignorable, where that would make sense. You say, well, what are your job skills? Well, I'm ignorable. And I'm not kidding, actually. That is one of my primary skills. Keeping a low profile. How would you describe it? Well, I like to keep a low profile. Okay. What was it? Oh, sorry, but yeah, I'm in the middle of a podcast intro. I have to come back to this interview. I guess I was in your vicinity. So I try. So I'm here to keep you company as you drift off is the main thing if you're new. If you're skeptical, doubtful, or you're not sure this podcast is for you, like I said, kind of just see how it goes. And as most reviewers and listeners I hear from say, it takes 2 or 3 tries because at first you might want to figure this podcast out, or you might be waiting for it to get started. It already kind of has, and this is like you see. Well, when are you going to get to the bedtime story? And I'd say, well, eventually we get there, but you might be asleep before I even get to the bedtime story. That's kind of one of the secrets. Of how the podcast this podcast just barely works. That's what makes you say, how come your podcast works so well? Well, because it kind of barely works. You say, I don't understand. I say, yeah, neither do I. Neither do I. Okay, what was it? I think I was trying to make a point in there though. Oh, so if you're new, yeah, just kind of look at this podcast like you would a cloud. Here's the thing. For me, I overthink a lot. I have a lot of strong feelings. I tend to think in all or nothing patterns. And a lot of times I feel pressure. I'm a people pleaser, right? I didn't realize this till just now, but even when you look at clouds, for people like us, maybe you can relate, maybe you can't. Looking at clouds with other people who can feel pressure laden. At least to me, and I'm not kidding. Like you say, well, what do you see up there? You say, oh boy, I better have the right, I better think of something good or this person's going to see right through me like I'm a cloud and they're going to see a storm on the other side, the storm that lives within me. And not one of those cool storms. They say, well, that's a storm I'd rather not So then I would try to, like, then it becomes, it's less about watching the clouds than trying to, you say, well, boy, I better see something cool. And, well, I already told him I saw that, the smiley face, so I got to think of something else. Other than castles or clouds, come on, come up with something, or, profiles, or you what? So I don't know if you can relate to that, where you say sometimes. So this podcast is best like consuming a cloud watching alone, with no pressure, because sometimes it's just me by myself, and I get that same vibe going, where my brain says, "Can't you see anything?" Like, I guess it's the Nana that lives within me. She says, "Well, don't you see anything in the clouds?" And I say, well, clouds and nice puffy. Oh boy, what kind of imagination do you have? Brilliant people see things in the clouds. And I said, well, I was just looking at the clouds because they make me kind of feel good. Oh, so you're just sitting around looking at clouds, not even practicing. Oh boy, no wonder your imagination, you can't see things in clouds. If you don't see things in clouds, how are you going to see things in clouds? I say, okay, Nana, you're right. Once again, but I was just trying to enjoy, like I was just like I was just being in the moment. Remember how yesterday you told me I could never be in the moment, and then I started thinking, tomorrow I'm going to try to be in the moment, and you said, oh boy, you just don't get it. But then I wrote it down. I said, go and look at some clouds, if there are clouds to be looked at, and just look at clouds in the moment. So am I doing it wrong? Oh, boy. You're doing it wrong by saying that. Who says something like that about themselves? Okay, Nana, this is good. So that's my Nana. Sorry about that. I didn't know she would come in. That's the Nana that lives within me. She's one of my, like you say, Scoots, what are the guiding principles that, I say, well, there's one of them. You just witnessed it. What belief system? This is true. You say, what belief system? Well, the Nana that lives within me, she's one part of my belief system. And this is not sarcasm. I have said this to a professional. I said, how come that's part of my belief system, huh? And they just nodded knowingly. And they said, yep, 7 years in, we still got about a lot of work to do, 50 minutes at a time. Let's dial it back in here. But I'm here to help, really. That's where my experience comes from. But I don't know what I was talking about. Podcast doesn't work for everybody. Oh, just try to consume it like a cloud without the pressure stuff. I'm here, and the reason you don't need to feel any pressure, because I don't expect you to perform. There's no need. You don't have to figure things out here. You don't have to listen to me. This is the one podcast you don't need to listen to. And even if you do, it'll barely make any sense. So even if I said, okay, I have a cloud machine, and we're going to make clouds that are like trains for the next 20 minutes, you'd say, okay, well, interesting. Maybe that's what tonight's episode, I think that's what tonight's episode will be about. So just kind of barely listen to me. I guess that's what I was saying. So this is the one podcast you don't need to listen to. If you do try to figure it out, maybe do that during the day, because it really, that's the one thing that, makes the podcast not work so much. If you say, well, when are you going to get to the point? I say, well, if you listen to 2 or 3 episodes, you'll realize, or when's this podcast going to put me to sleep? I say, well, that's the other point I like to make, is that this isn't really a podcast to put you to sleep. I'm the companion at your bedside or in your vicinity, your general vicinity even, that's here to just keep you company as you drift off. I don't so much put you to sleep as escort you while you drift off into dreamland. I just take your mind off of stuff. So that's kind of counterintuitive. This is a podcast you don't need to listen to, and it's a podcast to put you to sleep that doesn't really put you to sleep, it just keeps you company. But it's true. I'm really applying. Here's the thing. I respect your vicinity, even though I love saying that word. This is a strange thing to say, but has there ever been a saint vicinity? That's hard to say. Or is there ever been a superhero called Vicinity? That would be handy, actually. Say, Well, she's right here. She's right, like she's always in the vicinity. Like that's her power. I mean, it sounds very tiring. Maybe she could be one of the superheroes that has what are those things called franchises. So she said, well, I'm not in like, that's whatever, franchise 27BCQ. She'll be there right away. She's probably in your vicinity unless, they're not open today. That's vicinity. The hero that's always nearby. That's vicinity. The heroine that's always nearby. And you say, well, what's her powers? Well, she's always nearby, so she comes and helps in whatever way she can. Oh, okay, makes sense. Yeah, it's great. So anyway, where were we? I was, so if you're new, don't try to, I'm here to kind of apply to be your boar friend, your boar bae, your boar cuz, your boar bestie, your boar sib, your boar bruh, whatever, wherever, if you're on the beach, that's what I could be. But whatever it is, I'm here to help. So those are two things. The other thing that can throw new people off is the structure of the show, which kind of makes sense once I over-explain it. So the show starts off with greeting, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends beyond the binary. So everyone knows they're welcome here, and I'm striving to create a safe place for everyone. Then there's business, and that's what keeps the show coming out twice a week. There's about 4 or 6 minutes of business or something. Then there's the intro. The intro is about 12 to 20 minutes of me trying to explain what the podcast is to a new listener, which could kind of seem like it doesn't make any sense. You talk about the structure of the podcast and introduce it for 20 minutes. And I say, yeah, because it also serves a purpose for the regular listener. It's reassuring because you say, okay, there's that intro where Scoots never gets to the point. But he tries, and then he gets fixated on a word like vicinity, or he gets a call for, then he goes in for a job interview, imaginary job interview. Then he gets interrupted by his internal nana. Then he has to explain what an internal nana is. Then he tries to go back so it's reassuring. It's different every time. The reason it's different every time is because I in my experience, some of the stuff that keeps me up adapts. So I have to kind of keep changing things up so that your thinking part of your brain doesn't turn back on and say, well, let me think about that stuff again. Guess it's like that song, one step ahead of my nana, one step ahead of my internal nana. That wasn't in the Aladdin musical, but it could be, one jump ahead of my internal nana who predicts, but so that's, what was I? That's what the intro is reassuring. It's different every time. But for the regular listener, it's also part of a regular listener's wind down routine. So some people start it while they're getting ready for bed. Other people start it while they're in bed, getting comfortable. And it just gives you a chance to slowly unwind. And then the bedtime story starts. So that as you're getting cozy and comfortable, you might already be asleep. So this is the one podcast you could sleep through it, and maybe it's still working. Or you could set a sleep timer, or you could start playing it before you get in bed. Or some people listen all night. Or there's 2% of people that start the show at 20 minutes, and then they listen from there. So there's no wrong way to listen to it. So that's the intro. And then there's this business that keeps the show coming out twice a week. Then there's the bedtime story, and then there's the thank yous and good nights. So that's how the podcast is structured. And then what else do you think? I don't think there's anything else you need to know. I mean, this is the reason I make the show is because you deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a place of respite where you don't dread bedtime. And if I can provide that for you, it would be my honor. And the reason it would be my honor is, one, because you deserve it, and the world will be a better place if you're in a place to flourish and feel like, rested. But also because I've been there, tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting asleep, trouble staying asleep. Yeah, I've been there, all those places. And I know how it feels, especially like you say, well, it's 3:30. I don't really feel like having a chat with my internal Nana. So if I can interrupt that or make bedtime less of a rigmarole or give you something to look forward to, or at least take the dread out of bedtime, then I'm doing my job. Now, the flip side is that just naturally, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. So it doesn't work for everybody. But we do have a lot of regular listeners who say, hey, it took 2 or 3 tries. Then I realized the podcast will never make any sense. And that's when I loved it. Because I don't have to listen. I don't have to, Scoots is in my vicinity, but I don't have to placate him by pretending that I'm aware that he's, I say, oh, yeah. Like, I don't have to interpret clouds for anybody anymore. No one ever said that on a T-shirt about the podcast, but, I just said it. Nana, I don't have to interpret my clouds for anyone anymore. She says, I don't think that made it. And I said, anyway, so that's why I'm here. It's really my honor to help, like I said. I work very hard. I yearn and I strive. I appreciate you coming by. And here's a couple of ways we're able to bring this podcast twice a week. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you can set aside whatever's keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts, things you're thinking about, things on your mind. So thoughts, feelings, it could be feelings, you're feeling like emotions that are coming up for you. It could be thoughts, so it could be feelings about those thoughts, about the past, present, or future. Could be more immediate, could be physical sensations, could be changes in routine or time or temperature. By the way, temperature, what's your issue? Or light, that light. Maybe I could talk about that. I could use Nancy Drew if you're listening. Actually, don't come and help because it would have to be when the lights are off. And then I would say, that's not, who's in my room? Well, it's Nancy Drew. You called me to help you. And you said the lights would have to be off because your mystery involved the lights being off, which you should explain to listeners probably after you get through this intro or in the middle of it. Nancy Drew, do you have any idea how many times I've had to invoke your name in podcast intros? Probably 20, 30 times. Nancy Drew, did you just say harumph because I hadn't done it like 90 times? That would be more respectful. You're right. If it was 1/10 of my intros, this Scooter's the only person that has a non-Nancy Drew podcast that's evoked her name. 5%. I mean, we're not at 5%. I'm sorry, Nancy Drew. I know I can say this with somewhat likelihood. I've probably evoked your name more than Agatha Christie. So, and definitely thousands of, I've probably evoked the name of the Hardy Boys once, and it was only in relation to you. So there's that. Anyway, well, she just asked who I said, Fancy Nancy or Nancy Drew. There's an idea. Talk about a mashup made in heaven or made in mystery. Fancy Nancy Drew. That sounds like a doll I would play with. And it has my, name in it, too. Maybe that, again, I used to go when I would check into hotels and I'd say, what's the name, what's the name? Well, I'd like it if anyone calls for me. It's Noir Chardonnay, but now I'll go by Fancy Nancy. If you want to call hotels, don't do this really, but because I wouldn't answer. Plus, I'm not sure if my hotel phone rings. I'm not answering it. Just to FYI. Even if you work at a hotel, they say, well, the compliments of the chef are double dessert platters coming up. I would probably miss it because I'd say, why is my hotel phone ringing? I can't possibly. That's one of the things that would keep me up at night. because then I would wait for the voicemail light to blink. Oh, what's going on? Oh, so welcome to Sleep With Me. So whatever's keeping you awake, thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, I'd like to take your mind off of that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to try to create a safe place using lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, pointless meanders, superfluous tangents, which you've seen a few already, all to keep you company while you fall asleep, which can be like, if you're new, let me give you some information because this podcast can definitely throw you off. Now, if anyone listening from any of those, anyone, I don't think, does Fancy Nancy's still with us? Nancy Drew is like, no, there's been a few new Nancy Drews. New Nancy Drew movie. How about one of those big streaming platforms? I mean, you could give me some, I mean, I'm sure none of the people involved would want, let's say, with the sleep podcast guy. Yeah, he's proposed. What about if just we do a Halloween? I know there's been other Halloween themed. I have one of the Fancy Nancy Halloween books in my personal collection, but I mean, I'm not kidding either. But what if one year it could just be a Halloween special, like with a mystery? I mean, this is a reasonable proposal. Fancy Nancy Drew, that's what she's going as for Halloween. But then, there's the Fancy Nancy Drew and the Halloween mystery. I mean, or it could be like, this is not meant to minimize anything, but it could be a look back at 2020. Now, I'm recording this in the first week of October. You're probably hearing this in 2021, which is interesting. But it could be that it's Fancy Nancy's look back, She says, well, that was the year we changed, what Halloween meant. But I don't know. You know more than I do in the future. Okay, but anyway, sorry, new listeners. So a couple of things you need to know. I go off topic a lot, but I'm really here to keep you company. And that can get on people's nerves or like at first. And like it has to just say it strongly because that's what a lot of regular listeners, I just read a review from someone, a 5-star review. She said that she listened to the podcast a ton, or her friends had kept recommending the podcast. And she said, no, that sounds so annoying. And then she first listened and said it was doubtful and then started working. So if you're feeling annoyed or skeptical or doubtful, that's totally normal because that's a reasonable way to react to a podcast that's different, strange, goofy, and at least initially doesn't feel very sleepy. You say, when is this sleep stuff going to start? And I say, well, it kind of started already, but let me tell you a little bit more. One thing is this is not a podcast you really listen to and pay attention. You can listen to it, but you don't need to pay attention. Like you just say, like this is the only podcast where you say, well, when did Scoot start dialing it in? And he said, no, Scoot's, they said his podcast went on forever because he asks the listeners to dial it in. Dial it in is like is that a truism for not really giving full effort? I think it has to do with dial phones. I don't even know where it comes from. But like it means not giving full effort. Like you say, well, I've been doing this a while. This one, the listeners get to dial it in. You turn on the podcast, actually do like maybe what the dial it in metaphor is. And you just kind of put the phone next to your bed and you don't really, like I just talk. And you don't have to listen or even put the phone near you. You just say, I mean, how great is that? And you see, like, if you propose that to a regular person, unless they would do it once, I think most friends or romantic relationships or siblings or, certain other relationships would say, yeah, I'll do that, but not not twice, maybe twice. If it's romantic, say, well, this is, I'm courting you. So, yeah. But then at some point you can just say, well, I got I can't talk to you. And see, there's a podcast for that. I don't have to dial it in, neither do you. You just call this scooter up. And you don't have to dial it in. You just call this scooter up. And you don't have to dial it in. 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 You don't and he talks, and it doesn't really, he just goes on and on and on and on and on. So that's one way to listen. That's kind of how you listen. You just don't really pay attention to me. You just dial it in. Usually dialing it in means the work going into the show. This means the work going into listening. You don't really have to pay attention, was a short way of saying that. There's also no pressure to fall asleep. The reason the episodes are about an hour is to give you plenty of time to drift off. I'm more here to keep you company, to be your bore friend, your bore bae, your bore cuz, your bore bestie, your bore sib. Yeah, you're someone like, oh, wait, I'll come back. So whatever it is, I'm here to keep you company while you fall asleep. But even if you can't fall asleep, I'm going to be here. But that's why the shows just go on and on and on, is you just fall off at your leisure. A couple other things to know if you're new. One, give the show a few tries. That's what most reviewers and regular listeners say. Like I said, they say, well, first, this show doesn't make any sense. It goes on and on and on, never gets started, then doesn't go anywhere. And it doesn't make any sense. But then I realize, oh, perfect. That's exactly what I've been looking for. Or you might say, I don't know about these creaky dulcet tones and pointless meanders. I say, well, give it a few tries, see if it grows on you. I hope it can help you. Other things to know structurally, this is where the most strong feelings come out. And I guess understandably, this podcast does not follow any sort of podcast structure or normal structure because it's a podcast to put you to sleep. But also because it's this podcast to put you to sleep. There's other sleep audio since I've been doing the show more and more. And those shows have different structures too. Now, the reason this show has the structure it does is because let me tell you, it starts off with a greeting. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and friends beyond the binary. Because that's important so that you know you're welcome and you know you feel seen. Or, like, I can't tell you how you feel, right? Like, you know that my intention is to create a welcome place where you're seen. Then there's business. The reason there's business and supporter zones and that kind of stuff is so I can bring you this podcast for free twice a week versus as a part of a corporate behind the paywall, ad-supported. Then there's an intro. The intro goes from about minute 6 or 8 to minute 20, 22, 25, 18, somewhere in there. The intro is me just going on and on and on like I'm doing so far. And it's like I'm setting up or arranging the safe place because I kind of explain to the new listeners what the podcast is. I get distracted about that mystery at night and Fancy Nancy and Nancy Drew. Sometimes I pitch movies or books and those kind of things. And then I go back and I say, okay, so for a new listener, it kind of explains what the podcast is and gives you examples at the exact same time. But if you become a regular listener, what the intro does is it eases you into bedtime. It gives you a long runway to get some distance from the day so that you can fall asleep. Because for most of us, we just can't, like this podcast, I just can't count down or just go right into something. That's what makes this podcast different. It gives you some time. So some regular listeners, they start the show before they get into bed as they're getting ready for bed. Maybe they listen in multiple rooms on the couch while they're doing something relaxing. Then they get in bed. Some people are getting ready for bed physically, brushing their teeth, doing skincare, doing self-massage, foam rolling. Some people are in bed getting comfortable. Some people are in bed drifting off. So there's a lot of different ways as you become a regular listener to kind of adjust to using the show. 2% of listeners skip the intro. Some people consume story-only episodes that are one of the many things we offer on Patreon. So you can kind of see how it goes as you become, and some people change it up. I mean, people are listening more and more during the day when they need a break or they need to relax or they just really want something to listen to that they don't have to pay attention to if they're coding or doing physical labor. Or doing something else where they say, I just need something that kind of distracts me a little bit from the work at hand. So that's another option. So just kind of see how it goes. So that's the intro. Then there's business between the intro and the show. You could always find that business also at our website, but it's way podcast business is structured. It has to be there, and that keeps the show free. Then there's our story. Tonight it'll be a board game unboxing where I take a look at a board game from actually one of my heroes, John August. And that'll be fun. And then there's some thank yous at the end. So that's the structure of the show. And what else do you need to know? Structure of the show. No need to pay attention. Oh, why do I make the show? Because you deserve a good night's sleep. That's why I make the show. You deserve a place where you can get some rest. And if you're like me or a lot of the other listeners, you probably tried a lot of different stuff, right? And it's been very frustrating. It can feel bedtime can be a thing you don't look forward to, right? And you can have strong feelings. I mean, I get lonely, when I'm tossing and turning. And I get why me, all that kind of stuff. That's not, I don't want to say unfair, but it's not pleasant. And I think you deserve a nice, safe place where you can get, relaxed and fall asleep. And maybe this podcast is what does it for you or becomes part of your routine with other stuff that does it for you. And maybe not. I hope it does. But whether this podcast works for you or you could look at sleepwithmepodcast.com/no thank you. Whatever ends up working for you, remember, you deserve a good night's sleep. And on top of that, our world will be a better place if you get the rest you deserve and need. Because you'll be living your life more fully. So that's what's important. And the other side of it is, like I kind of said, I've been there. I know how it feels. And I don't if I can help it, it really gives my life purpose and my strange skill set. So that's why I make the show. And just to close it out, so I have this mystery right now. So one of the things I keep in my room or close by is gaffer tape to cover up LED lights. I know they have sticker sets that I've seen, and I bought those, and no offense to the companies that make those, but they don't gaffer tape. You could cover an LED and it won't, you don't got to worry about it. So I do that regularly. And so, but the last few nights I've been noticing, and I have added a new power strip that I thought I covered all the lights on. And I think something else like a mouse or something. And then every night after I go to bed, I see these blue lights against the wall. And I say, well, I got to do something about this, but not right now. And then so last night, before I got ready for bed, I was like, I got to do something about them. I couldn't find them. I was right in the corner where my desk is. And they didn't exist until, of course, they appear when I turn out the lights to press play. So Nancy Drew or Fancy Nancy Drew, if you're listening, that could be an easy case. That could be before the book. That could be the bonus content or what do you think about taking out, does Scholastic take ads? I don't think they do. But if they did, or free comic book day, you say, don't miss out, October 29th, 2021, the Fancy Nancy Drew Halloween holiday mystery. But today on Free Comic Book Day, we have a 2-pager from Fancy Nancy Drew in the blue light specials or something. And maybe the LED lights sing. And they really need to find their way back home. I don't know. But anyway, that's what's up with me at night. So that's why I want to help. Oh, boy. Saying it out loud just makes it, I'm kind of okay, well, at least they're blue and they're not full strength. Even though blue light, they say to avoid it, it's not as intrusive as green or red light when it's on a wall or a brighter light. It's one of those deep blues and it may be covered. I don't know. So anyway, again, I'm close to, I'm just resigned to it right now, Fancy Nancy Drew. So if you hear me, also, I just love saying that. So anyway, I hope you're listening. But you, dear listener, I hope I can help you fall asleep. Thank you so much for checking the show. Please give a few tries because you deserve it. It doesn't really benefit me because actually it doesn't benefit. Actually, believe it or not, when I say give it a few tries, like a part of me like goes and lies down like curled up in a ball because when I say that, then some people do that and then they say like they don't like the show and they have to let me know about it vocally. But it's still what really works. So it's you're worth it. You're worth me getting that email. If you get a few tries and it works for you. Because I don't benefit either way. Like I benefit maybe from the long-term listeners and the relationship we have, right? Long-term listeners. I mean, long-term listeners know, you know, my confused adoration of Fancy Nancy and Thea Stilton, Geronimo Stilton, because they say, Scoots, none of them actually look into mysteries. I say, you're sure? You say, hey, I don't know, like, and they say, no, one of them does. And I say, one time someone said, there's no such thing as Thea Stilton. And, that was a cheesemonger, actually. I thought I said, do you have any Thea Stilton? And they looked at me distastefully, scornfully. The cheesemonger scorn. That's when I ended up writing that book, Thea Stilton in the Case of the Cheesemonger Scorn. And that book's not available at all because I only wrote the title, but, and they said, don't write it because they have a direct line to my brain. I can't think of, I'm sorry, whoever the author is, but, I'll actually donate some money. I'm not even kidding. As long as you're not like, out there in a negative way. Like if you support positive causes that support dignity and respect and those kind of things, I'll support one of your causes. But also their estate always lets me know, they say, we heard you were thinking about Thea Stilton in the Case of the Scornful Cheesemonger. And I said, incorrect, the Case of the Cheesemonger Scorn. And I was like, you don't want to hear about it? I picture a thorny bush on the cover. And they say, just to forget about it. And I say, I said, if there's one thing I'm good at, it's proposing ideas and forgetting about them. And that's what I'm really here to do is help you forget about the day just for a little while. So thanks again for coming by. I'm really glad you're here. I really hope I yearn and I strive. I work very hard because I want to help you fall asleep. Here's a couple of ways I'm able to bring this show twice a week. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever is keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts you're thinking about, that might be on your mind from the past or the present or the future, or you're just thinking. It could be wandering thoughts. Maybe that's something I've never talked about. The old wandering thoughts and the thought wanderer. It could be feelings or emotions coming up related to the thoughts or that are just there, or that are layovers from the day or the distant past. All that comes up for me. Also, physical sensations, it could be keeping you awake, or it could be other stuff. It could be changes in routine or time, temperature, stuff out of your control. In some sense, you say, well, most of it's out of my control. Could be remote. What if it's like a remote control car? What if there was like a miniature remote control car? This would keep me up at night. That somehow like could plug itself in when like it found like it's like it has a miniature Roomba dock where it can recharge itself. You don't know where the Roomba dock is, so you can't unplug it. I'm thinking like a micro machine, and it only activates at night. That would keep me up. And you say, is that my imagination, or is that a semi-sentient micro machine? Micro machine. That's another thing. Sorry, I'm off topic early, but, so once upon a time, kids played with these cars. They were called die-cast cars. And I have no idea when they were invented. It could be anywhere from 1930 to 1970. And when I came around, the biggest brand, there was a couple of competitors, but the biggest brand was called Hot Wheels. And I had a few Hot Wheels. I think a couple of my younger siblings even had the Hot Wheels. They had play sets. As we've heard about, I was more into chillaxing figures and action figures than cars, because, it led to the podcast. Otherwise, it had to be on, Car Talk 2.0 or something. But so at some point in the 80s, I think somebody said, these Hot Wheels are really hot stuff, man. They've been around. Scooter doesn't know when they've been around for decades, possibly. And we've got, this is at one of those big toy conglomerates. And they said, I need ideas. The person they said, give me your best ideas to put the Hot Wheels out of business. Because no offense to the Hot Wheels competitors, usually the competitors to Hot Wheels you would get at the drugstore, which in Syracuse was Phase, which it didn't just have prescription stuff. It was a bit like a grocery store, which now they've become again. Like there's just 2 or 3 companies that run all those now. But you'd go there to get your low-grade electronics and toys as well as other things. So they had the competitors they probably had Hot Wheels, but they're way overpriced. And I think these are toy cars. Yes, I'm still talking about it. But so they had a meeting, this one toy conglomerate. I'm imagining this. This is not a history podcast. But they said, give me some ideas. And somebody in the back, she said, what if we take the Hot Wheel cars, get rid of the metal, and make them much, much smaller? And at first, probably this person was passed, but wait, nah, more. And then we said, go back. You sounded like you had facts to back up your, well, this is a cost savings. This is a packaging savings. This is a unique marketing idea. Also, there's this person we know who has a world record for talking fast. We could get them to do the commercials, and they'd take up less space. So it's a very unique USP, whatever, unique selling proposition. Micro machines. People love, haven't you seen any of those shows? They have shrink rays. That's one of the big themes on sci-fi and adventure series. These kids would have their own shrink ray. They say, okay, well, let's do it. Also, what does this have to do with a sleep podcast, and how did you start talking about it? I have no idea. I think I was talking about something I think I thought I was going to talk about something about, I had another phrase that I was going to use. And then, I don't know how I started. I think I was trying to make a point. Physical sensation, changes in time or temperature, wandering thoughts. I think I just went into a wandering thought and got lost. But whatever's keeping you awake, I have no idea. So I was talking about wandering thoughts that just come up. Other things that could change your, a sentient micro machine, but that was a remote control. So I was trying to explain what a micro machine was. So that's what a micro machine is. Then a remote control car, most people are familiar with that concept, but just in case, it's like a car, a toy car, and you have a remote control and you can move it around and control it, varying degrees of quality and control. This particular car is a fictional invention, but it's very small, like the micro machines were. Also, somehow, like, it can recharge itself, and it doesn't have a controller. And unfortunately, it's nocturnal, and it's hidden. I don't know why. These things just pop in my brain, but I guess my point was that could keep you awake at night if it just you see, is that thing living under my bed? And your partner or spouse would say, well, technically it's not living. It's a sentient toy. You see, don't bother me. Don't quibble with me right now. Trying to go to sleep, and I got some sort of, and I don't want to start wandering around and step on it because then it'd be like stepping on a Lego. And also, could this ever be a movie? Is anybody from any of those big, we could put this out in October 2021, 2022. The miniature sentient car. I mean, we'll figure out another, name for it, but that's for a sleep podcast. But whatever's keeping you awake, whether it's sentient micro machines or, it's not fully sentient. It's just found a way to power itself. Now, there could be a whole narrative. Pixar, you could find me too. We could have a whole narrative of what the car is doing at night. It's obviously searching for something. Probably has an emotional need as well. Once you go, is there any Toy Story scheduled direct to streaming? Well, I guess direct to streaming now is like we're putting that out in the movie theater. It's like 2 or 5 years from, I'm kidding. I love going to the movies, but like it used to be if you went direct to video, that was a downside. So if Pixar was going to put out a Toy Story direct to video, like Toy Story 12, the little micro machine that did keep me up at night. Oh, boy, that's an early tangent. New regular listeners, you're celebrating that. New listeners, you're probably confused, which is a natural way to get to this show. Or, well, you get confused once you start listening. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to keep you company while you fall asleep. I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, pointless meanders, and superfluous tangents, which we just got through about 8 minutes of them, all to keep you company while you drift off. That's the kind of, I can't patent the mix of Sleep With Me, unfortunately, but that's what we do here is, and it can be surprising. A few things. This is a podcast you don't really listen to. You just kind of passively consume it. Like another person in another situation, on another alternative world or alternate dimension, another person, another adult is living in a home with a sentient micro machine. We're just using that word. I realize it's not a sentient micro machine, but they find it barely distracting, and they just listen to it while it drives around, and they fall asleep to it. So that's a refreshing thing to know. Oh, there's an alternative. And of course, the partner would say that, dear, did you know there's an alternative universe where you find the remote control car driving around our home in the middle of the night comforting? Say, okay, go sleep in the guest room, please. Take your quibbling. So this is a podcast you don't really listen to. Just kind of loosely consume it, just like that person in the alternative universe is just kind of barely paying attention. I don't know, a bit like a fan or something, or some other comforting sound that you've developed a comforting relationship with. Hopefully, you'll learn not to listen to me so much. We'll have a comforting, like I can comfort you or keep you company. So that's the first part of the podcast that throws people off. It's like, wait a second, I don't really listen. You don't really tell me a story and put me to sleep. I say, well, no, I kind of keep talking about stuff, and then I go off topic, and you barely listen to me. Also, I don't really put you to sleep. I'm here to keep you company while you drift off. That's why the episodes are over an hour, because you could drift off at your leisure. But there's also some reassurance there that if you can't sleep, I'm going to be here for you. My job's to keep you company whether you're listening or not. And I don't know, like if we could get an interview with that micro machine, I'm sure I'm going to be hearing from them to say, oh, you think you can laugh at the toy conglomerates now? And I'd say, well, does the most promote, no offense, but I'm sure eBay sale, I don't know, are you still in business? No offense, are you still in business? Because I haven't heard it, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be, that wasn't nice of me to say that, Mr. Micro Machine. Mr. Toy Baron, I'm sorry. I was just having a laugh at your expense because I just haven't heard anybody other than me. I'm just saying that I was doing some speculative micro machine fiction, I guess. And other than, I'm sure there's a subgenre of erotica that's Micro Machine related that's probably got a very strong niche community, and that's a beautiful thing too. But this is different. So, and also I'm trying to do a sleep podcast, and I got a subgenred myself. So anyway, podcast you don't really listen to doesn't really put you to sleep. I'm just here for you. It does take some getting used to. It's a very common theme among our regular listeners. They say, give it 2 or 3 tries. That's how long it takes for most people to get used to this podcast. And when I say get used to it, it means you just mostly stop listening to it or stop paying attention to it. So those are the first 3 things to know. But I'm here for you to keep you company while you fall asleep. Also, the structure of the show can really throw people off. Show starts off with a greeting so you feel seen and welcome. Friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Then there's some listener support and then show sponsors. That's how we keep the podcast coming out twice a week. So you can listen to it for no cost. Then there's the intro. The intro is around 15 to 20 minutes. I guess sometimes I don't know when the last time it was 12 minutes, because the listeners, it serves a purpose. That's why it's kind of grown to the 15 to 22 minute range. And the purpose the intro serves is to give you some space between the daytime and the nighttime. It's kind of like audio dusk. I think I've talked about that before. Just like the sun doesn't just drop out of the sky. I mean, how weird would that be? You say it's daytime, now it's nighttime. Nature doesn't work that way. It took me 950 something episodes to figure that out. But the podcast does follow nature in that way. Probably inspired by it, but I forgot about it. But yeah, I mean, that's the truth. The sun doesn't just drop out of the sky or pop up and say, yo, it's day, get up. I mean, sometimes it feels that way. But the sun eases across the sky and below the horizon and then eases back up. And Sleep With Me kind of does the same thing. It eases you into sleep and gives you some distance between your day life and your day concerns and being asleep. Because for most of us, we've dealt with other stuff, all the stuff and all the advice that people give. And for me, none of it worked, or it worked once. And what works is having a wind down routine. And hopefully for regular listeners, Sleep With Me is part of that. Whether you're winding down in bed with your eyes closed, drifting off, or you're doing some other calming activity, or you're getting ready for bed, or you're listening during the day, or maybe you're listening on your couch. Maybe you listen on your couch or in your guest room. I mean, I'm just saying different bedtime routine stuff I've tried. Like reading in another room and then going and getting in bed. So, I don't know. Ideally, it's part of your wind down routine. Now, you could start the show 20 minutes. About now, at this point, 3% of listeners or so do that. A few thousand people listen to story-only episodes. There's that option on Patreon. That's on Patreon. And then... But everyone else, they kind of just slowly wind down. So that's the intro. Then there's some sponsors. Again, that's how the show's free. And then there's our discussion of the Mandalorian. That's me on the show, or the program, the Mandalorian. And I'll run through an episode about a Jedi. And then there's thank you. So this is the structure of the show. We kind of talked about the other stuff that could throw you off. Totally understandable if you're skeptical or doubtful, or you even dislike me or the show. I have a website, sleepwithmepodcast.com/no thank you, for people that definitely don't like the podcast. But give it a few tries because I'm just here to help. And the reason I make the show is twofold. One, I've been there in the deep, dark night, tossing, turning, mind racing, waking up too early, waking up in the middle. All of it. I've been there and I know how it feels. I know how it feels emotionally and I know how it feels physically and I know how it feels mentally, not just in the deep, dark night, but on the day after and the day after that. So if I can help any way I can, that bedtime dread, to make bedtime something you feel neutral about, or, ideally, Sleep With Me becomes part of a bedtime routine for you that you look forward to. Just like me, when I'm reading a good book, I really look forward to bedtime, and I say, can't wait to get in bed, pull up my weighted comforter and all that stuff, and get in my sheets and snuggle in. Or if I'm trying something, well, I'm going to read on the couch or the deck for a little while. Then I'm going to get in bed and just go to sleep. So hopefully Sleep With Me becomes something, even if you don't look forward to it. I mean, I'm going for just pure, you say, well, I kind of feel like I used to dread bedtime. Now I kind of feel, I'm not sure if Scoots is using this word the correct way, ambivalent. But I say NBD, man, no big deal. I got Scoots that I can barely listen to at bedtime. The other reason I make the show is because it's more important. That's you. You deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a place you can rest. And I hope this podcast can provide that for you, or you find another sleep podcast or sleep audio solution, or maybe just create your own bedtime routine. And that works for you. Or you listen to the podcast, Sleep With Me. Like some people are having a tough time. They listen to Sleep With Me and they get through it. And then they're sleeping sound. That's great. Graduating from the podcast. So whatever it is, I'm glad you're here. I really hope I can help. So give it a few tries. I work really hard. I yearn and I strive. And I really hope I can help you fall asleep. Thanks again for coming by. And here's a couple of ways I'm able to bring you this show for free twice a week. All right, buddy, you've heard me talk about my bed. I have the Helix Dusk Luxe. I absolutely love it. And I love working with Helix. We've been working for Helix year after year after year. I sleep in a Helix bed every night. I absolutely love it. I'm comfortable. But it's a bed fit for me and how I sleep. Helix isn't going to just sell you one mattress. They're going to sell you a mattress that fits you, your sleep needs, how you sleep, your feel preferences. What's going to make you comfortable so you can have a great night's sleep. And everybody starts off with these resolutions in the new year. But think about it. You sleep in your mattress, your bed every single night. And here's something you could do in the new year. Get yourself a brand new mattress that fits your needs. And you know you're going to follow through on it because you're going to get in that bed every single night and you're going to be comfortable. And all you need to do to kick your new year off with some great sleep is to take that quiz. HelixSleep.com/sleep. But when I took it, I sleep on my side, I sleep on my stomach. I don't want to get overheated. And I got matched with the Helix. I picked the Helix Dusk Luxe. So start your new year off right. Get yourself a new bed. It's going to last you into 2025 and beyond. It's going to come straight to your door, shipped in a box, free of charge. And this is a commitment that's easy to follow through on because you're going to be getting in that bed and getting cozy night after night. And here's all you need to do. Go to HelixSleep.com/sleep for 25% off site-wide plus 2 free Dream Pillows with mattress purchase plus a free bedding bundle. That's 2 Dream Pillows, a sheet set, and a mattress protector with any Luxe or Elite mattress order. That's HelixSleep.com/sleep for 25% off site-wide plus 2 free Dream Pillows with mattress purchase plus a free bedding bundle. That's 2 Dream Pillows, a sheet set, and a mattress protector with any Luxe or Elite mattress order. And that's at HelixSleep.com/sleep. Thanks, everybody.